Alright, we've been here before, so let's already begin. Let's get it, let's go.
We missed the meal. We missed the meal.
I have a lot of things to say for this video. It's a very long video, but it feels super short in the same time. What a lot of tournament videos get wrong is that they just stay repetitive, right? And I like here that you try different things for different characters instead of just doing like, oh, backflip here and a slow motion part there. You got creative with the movements characters had, and that made this, I believe it's an 11-minute long video. Yeah, it felt like 2 minutes. And I really like the stylistic choice of having the parts where people would have made the camera stay still rather be handheld. Since you mix it with stop motion, it feels like you're just doing stop motion at the same time, which gives it this very aggressive and raw feeling. Same thing when you introduce characters and the light is flickering. If it was still, I feel like that would actually remove from the video. But if anyone else did what you did, it would be hurting their video because they just don't use this kind of energy you have here. But you definitely need to do more easing in and out practicing, because when you actually do the stop motion part, especially like in the beginning where War Machine was flying, the speed just never felt right. And there were some parts in this video where the aspect ratio changed and it just didn't feel right. Same thing with the framing. Some parts in the cinematography, the characters was just way too high, which honestly feels like a very rare thing to see because usually people have too much space above, but you have the exact opposite issue. And I also really like how you did practical effects like the explosions. Instead of using cotton like a lot of other people, including myself, you went for paper, and you went for those big paper towels, and they added texture, which actually adds more to the explosion, so I really like that. This is definitely a video I recommend for other people on how to be unique in the LEGO realm, since a lot of people are just repeating the same stuff like add bound here, add bound there, and it's just small things like this that if you just keep with yourself and continue embracing, this can bring you a long way. For the energy alone, this is a 9 out of 10. Alright, I did review this video in the short forms before, but I just have more things I can say about it. Alright, the majority of my issues are just with the first part of the video, the first half. It was just pretty generic and it could have been trimmed down. And the reason I say for the first half is because the second half takes a creative pull, where since this is a fight video, there are actually consequences for what they did. And for that, I have to give you points because that's honestly really creative. I haven't seen anyone do that actually. The walking cycle in the beginning was just basically dragging the time, and instead that time could have been spent into making the fight scene longer and more crazy. Because me personally, I think it would be funnier if it went even crazier with the fighting. I'm talking about like straight up hardcore, just for the guy that looks like my figure to get arrested in the end. The contrast of going action packed and then having a very realistic ending adds to the humor, but I'm not saying this is a bad video. It just needs to work on its priorities. 7 out of 10.
Like, look at that booty right there. Look at that booty right there. Look at that booty right there.
Just like the video I just reviewed, I'm going to be talking more about the first half that needs more work, since the second half of the video just went above and beyond. Out of all the Dan Wick videos in your series, this one has the most issues with the framing where the head of the people are just cut off. You have to make sure that when you're filming on a different aspect ratio that's not 16:9, you have to be aware that some of the stuff is going to be cropped off, which is why I use a macro lens mainly, even more when I'm using a wider aspect ratio, because I will have to be moving my camera backwards and I still want to keep my characters in focus. So when you film with something like 21:9, make sure you have the camera further away, or you could try to lift up the camera more. And I know my talking animations are pretty generic, but I feel like you can work on by having them move their hands more, because you just make them go back and forth, and you can only do that for so long until it looks like they're swinging. And the thing is, if you remove that from the animation, the rest of the animation, especially in the second half, goes top notch. You have some really good walking cycles, I've noticed that, and you need that kind of stuff when you're making an action series like this. All the other stuff are definitely carrying the video though, same with the story. This series never fails to impress me, so I recommend you guys to watch the previous parts before watching this one, because I definitely recommend this video. But for right now, I feel like it's pretty fair to say this is an 8.5 out of 10. This advice right here is barely mentioned by anyone else, and I even hardly mention it if at all ever. But this video is an outlier that has to make me actually talk about it. It's the sequence of movement in the editing. I don't know if there's a word for it, but I'm gonna show you guys what I mean. So when Omni-Man throws Mark, he throws him to the left side of the camera, but then when we go to him falling down, we cut to him in the right direction instead of going to the left direction. And this doesn't work unless you're gonna be having the camera spin around. You must always try to avoid getting this in a video. And if you guys don't understand the importance of it, imagine animating someone getting punched in Lego and the camera is moving the opposite direction of the punch, so you don't actually see the punch. It's basically like that, but for the editing equivalent, which is why it's important to get it right. Luckily, you did fix this in the end. And speaking in the end, I don't feel like this video needed to be cut into parts, because there was just not enough stuff going on to, you know, make it count as one part. At that point, you could have just finished it yourself, since parts like an episode, that's basically what parts are. The only work if you have a lot of stuff to work with, but you don't really, because this is a scene recreation. Also, I like your fast movement, but the issue is that they just don't have enough easing in and out, so when they move, it just feels way too sharp. So if you got anything out of this, just work on the camera's continuity and practice on your easing in and out. 6 out of 10. I really like the color palette here. I really like the greens and the blues. They really have a rich contrast, and the greens here really make it not feel unnaturally cold with the temperature lighting. And another thing here that I just didn't mention enough in the short version of this is how I usually tell other people to not let people hit each other in the same time when they're fighting, because otherwise it looks like they're just sparring, you know, catching each other's punches. But you go really aggressive with your easing in and out, right? So it always looks like they're actually going hard, and that also removes that time where it looks like they could just be going slow and easy on one another. It always feels very aggressive and very real. I guess for a video this is enough for the runtime of it being a part 1, but I still feel like there was extra room that you could have added stuff in to boost the runtime, because it still just feels like the first segment of a video, which even though this is a part 1, is still not enough to make a whole part. Yeah, what I mean to say is that it feels more like a scene instead of a part. But this video, cinematography wise, is filmed really good. The cinematography doesn't do anything crazy, but at the same time it also really fits what you're doing here. I gotta say, this is a solid 8.5 out of 10. Alright, this video also has good framing, but there's other things you would need to work on. For example, the base plates make up the background as well for the sky, and that just kind of does not look right. I tell this to other people because having texture onto the sky makes it really hard to believe it as a sky, so I just prefer when people use something like colored paper instead. Also, every now and then the lighting seems like it's coming closer from the camera, and I told this to other people, but never let the camera be on the same side as the lighting. It never looks natural, and at the same time, your Legos are made out of very reflective plastic, right? So at the same time, it also makes them just look way less professional and uglier. I prefer myself to have them on the corners of the background, since it really makes everything feel more dynamic. And also, editing wise, the sounds are very quiet. And I don't mean like the volume is too low. I mean rather that sometimes there's just like whole moments where there's just no sounds at all, and it does not fit the video at all, because you went the route to have, you know, actual sound effects in it. If the video was mute, that's one thing, but the video actually did have sound effects, so the fact that you made it all quiet in some parts for no reason just kind of looks lazy. I'm sorry, but in the long form, the best thing I can give you is a 5.5 out of 10. Even though the set design was very minimal here, I really liked that it gave room for all this stuff to happen. And whoever's recording for Batman is not doing a very good job. It's fine if you don't have a microphone, because I literally use my phone for all my stuff and it sounds completely fine. There's a million tutorials out there in the internet that can help you out to record anything and make it sound good. And also, he sounds like he's speaking way too quiet and way too close to the microphone at the same time, because of which when he speaks it sounds like when he says the letter P, and you guys hear when I say the letter P, the mic sounds like it's punching you, so you should never let that happen ever. The framing for this video gets better the more it goes on, but at the same time the fighting gets worse as the video goes on. You could have done practically anything with Superman fighting Batman, even with it being a comedy, but you just went for a more shallow version of what you did already, which was infinitely better, and I really enjoyed it too. And when you speak, I used to do the same thing too. I just use the same kind of movements again and again, but when you're having characters move, especially with this much space that you don't have them walking in circles looking at one another when they're speaking to one another. There's so many more creative choices you could have chosen to help this video get better, and it hurts more when you see a video that has potential. The one part I don't feel like you held back though, it was the lighting. I really like this very moody lighting you had here. But yeah, this video is a 5.8 out of 10. I like that even though you were working with clay faces, you still went out of your way to make them very expressive in their movements. Actually, as a whole, I really like your movements here. And I know you're supposed to go for a grayer background for content warning, but you could have kept on doing the thing you did prior. In the background where you have the gray base plates and behind that you have the black pieces of paper. It gives the video a slightly more punchy look, even if it's more subconsciously. And as a whole, it just looked better. And I don't really know why you took it off. But this was genuinely a really fun watch, and I also like that even though this was a brick film, and when I review brick films, I don't usually call this out, but there was chemistry between the characters, and that was the best part. And that enhanced basically everything they did, since everything just felt more vibrant and expressive, even though they were just doing the basic stuff, you know, you see in a brick film. It's the energy and the vibe that this video gives off that helps it really. That's also why I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. The subtle stuff here were really good, especially like the door opening for Darth Vader, and of course the elephant in the room, the lightsaber effects and all that. All of those were really well done here. There was a lot of energy in the movements, but the camera just did not have that same kind of level. Especially when they finally began fighting, the camera wasn't even framed properly for them. And for the majority of the video, it actually wasn't framed properly for the headroom available. 50% would be the characters and the other 50% would just be the ground. It's the kind of stuff like that you don't really notice until it's too late. Like I remember filming earlier on in my career here. Actually, I take it back. I don't want to say career. This sounds corny. But usually when you're filming, you just have the mentality sometimes that you just want the characters and the camera, but you need to go a layer deeper and think about how you're portraying them with the camera. That's the best advice I can honestly give you for this video, because everything else you seem like you're doing very great. And whatever small issues I didn't call out, you're definitely gonna fix them by yourselves. Just casually too, since this is really good. 8 out of 10. Dr. Doombrick's back at it again in the same review. The speed for Sonic and his motion blur didn't match the speed he was actually going. And of course, I don't mean like I want you to actually make him go crazy fast. I just mean either remove frames or boost the frame rate. And realistically, it's probably better for you to do it with the removal of frames because both Shadow and Metal Sonic didn't have the same issue, and actually they looked even better when they were going fast. And because they had less frames, their motion blur actually felt more realistic. And going mute for this video is more reasonable since you didn't add any sound effects. I can't rate you for sound effects, so the possibility of losing points is way weaker here. And with the faster movements done by the other characters more properly, this video has way more energy and it feels more like a living spark instead of the way draggier look you had for the video I reviewed previously. And this doesn't mean animation is only good when it's fast or fighting is only good when it's fast paced. It just needs to hold more weight. So like if you have a fight scene and people are moving slower, add more force into what they're doing, make it look more damaging with its strength. But here you're definitely going for speed, so you need to spend more time trying to make sure that people are going the proper speeds that actually looks good in the camera. 7.8 out of 10. Okay, this video was just a thrill. My favorite part is that it really felt like an ever-growing threat. And I actually mean that though. The framing could have been better earlier on in the video, but that's literally it. I really like how the camera stays wide as it slowly begins to destroy everything, and I really like that people trying to overcome it at the same time. Small things like that give a video way more energy, like I said previously, and actually this entire video. It's the small efforts that count basically. And you didn't have the advantage that I do, which is that I can just add a super thin depth of field when I'm using a macro lens and have people subtly moving in the background. You had a very wider depth of field, so everything that was going on, you had to show it. And I respect you for going all the way in the scale. And I really liked that the very few clay videos in this review were both very creative in completely different ways. And outside of working on the choppiness of the animation, this is basically a perfect video. I completely recommend you guys to watch this video in your own time. Yeah, I'm glad to say this video is a 9.5 out of 10. Alright, so for right now for this video, I'm done. And I know a lot of you guys didn't go for this one, and that's completely fine since I have memorized some of the people and they will be going for the next one. So no one's being left behind. So right now, like and subscribe, share please, and see you guys next time.